Hello everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing the Convoy L8. This is a thrower flashlight. I was so excited to pick this up downstairs, I just can't wait to actually open it up. So let's crack open the box and have a look. As you can see, the box is kind of dented up a little bit. It's come from China and has also kind of stopped off in Singapore and was redirected for some reason. So, but it got here anyway, and it got here a lot faster than I thought it would. So I think it's probably took about a week and a half to arrive here in Australia, so I'm really happy with the shipping time. So let's open it up. It's a pretty simple box. You can see on the side here, I'm going to just shift it a little bit. You can see on the side here, it just says L8 SBT 90.2. Very simple packaging. I like it. I don't like packaging that just has too much stuff going on. So it's a simple little box. Let's open it up and have a look. So here we have the L8. Let me just take that out. It's got the charger with it as well. That's good. Nice USB-C charger. And of course, we have the L8 itself. And let's just put this on the table. I think that's it. Have a look in that box. There's nothing else in that box. So I can chuck that over to the side here. And let's have a look at what we have. Alrighty, so here is the flashlight straight out of the package, and it really looks quite amazing. I love the build quality of it. You can see all the fins here. I don't have any flashlights that have this sort of level of detail in the fin design, and I think this is quite appropriate for an LED like this SBT 90.2. Produces so much heat, so I think this is really going to help to disperse some of that heat. The only other SBT 90 flashlight that I have is the Immelin MR90, and that actually has a fan on it to keep it cool. So it's interesting this one doesn't have a fan, and I actually like that because I find that fan on the Immelin MR90 really annoying when you start ramping up that flashlight. That's going to increase the surface area of the flashlight. You can see a little rubberized button, and there's a ring around that button as well. Looks to be aluminium alloy button, or maybe it's stainless steel. I'm not completely sure. Convoy L8. Another thing that I'm noticing straight away is just this beautiful matte finish, and look at that knurling as well. There's a really interesting pattern over here. A few little facets or whatever cut into the side of it as well, kind of catching the light. And I can say this is the nicest finished flashlight that I actually have in terms of the anodization. So Convoy does have a really good reputation with their build quality, especially at the price point as well. So this flashlight costs about $130 Australian. That would be perhaps around 90 US dollars. I think for what you get for that, I mean, you really get a premium quality flashlight for the fraction of what other manufacturers are charging. You know, the SBT emitter itself, I think, is about 50 bucks. So I really don't know how they managed to do it at this price point, at this level of quality. Even includes the battery itself, which is fantastic. So this light comes with this extended tube here. This is the 26980 extended tube, which is basically a slightly longer 26800 cell. I'm very unfamiliar with this cell. I've never seen it before. All I know is that it stores about 6800 to 7000 milliamp hours, and yeah, basically draws about 30 amps at max. So let's open it up. Let's see what this battery looks like. Okay, so there's a bit of, looks like there's a bit of packaging material there just to insulate the spring. Wow, that's a really thick spring. Look at that. Amazing. And there's a retaining ring around there. That looks to be maybe like some kind of copper or brass retaining ring around there, but it's not. There's no tail cap switch, so that's interesting. Let's have a look inside. So we've got the battery here. Jeez, this thing is gigantic. And let's get out a few other batteries to compare. Over here, I've got the 18650 cell here. I've got a 21700 cell in the center, and here you have the 26800 cell. It's enormous. It's almost twice the size of this cell here, this 18650. And one of the things that was mentioned on the Convoy website was basically this battery is quite rare in the market. It's difficult to find it, and this one is actually taken out and disassembled from some kind of module, and you can see underneath here there's little welded bits of metal here on the bottom and the top. It looks like they've just been taken apart, but apparently the battery has 0 cycles and hasn't been used before. That's something to keep in mind if you are purchasing this flashlight. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to drop this in. Let's have a look first. I think we're going to have to take off this extender tube. And look at that. Look at the threads. Check out the threads on that as well. Really generously cut and all square cut, anodized. You can see the O-rings there. So I'll take off this extender tube because we're not going to need that. And that's the extender tube there, anodized all the way into the threads. And there's actually a couple other SBT 90.2 lights that Convoy do. So there's actually the 4x18A and 4x21A flashlight, and they come in that sort of soda can configuration. And the reason why I wanted this one is I just wanted something that wasn't too large to hold. And also on top of that, this one has a gigantic reflector. The head diameter of this flashlight is 81 millimeters. So you're going to get significantly more throw in this one than their other 2 SBT 90 flashlights theoretically. So that's why I chose this one. I didn't want it to be too chunky, but I still want it to be able to throw really, really far. So let's go ahead. I've taken off that extender tube. I'm going to put in that QB26 800 cell. Drop that in like that. Okay. And I'll connect that up. Connect that tail cap up. Okay, screw that tail cap on. Nice and tight there. Okay, so it does turn on. We'll have to charge it up and make sure that it's at 100% capacity. Another thing that I want to do just while we're here as well is that I'm just going to bring out a few other flashlights, larger flashlights and smaller flashlights, so that you can see the relative size of this light compared to others. So just put that way, that extended tube. So probably the one that compares that looks the most similar would be this one here. This is the Immelin MR90, okay, and you can see the diameter of the head is significantly more. But if you look underneath the hood, this is what you're going to find. The reflector of the MR90, let's have a look. That is roughly 5.5 centimeters. And we're talking about the SBT 90 reflector, yeah? So 5.5 centimeters versus about, I'm going to just measure the reflector only, about 7.2, maybe 7.2 centimeters or 72 millimeters in diameter. So all things being equal, you're going to get a lot more throw out of this one compared to the MR90. And obviously it depends on how hard the LED is driven as well, and I'll be doing a comparison video to see which of these actually wins at some point. But for the time being, I'll work on this video. And let's have a look at some other flashlights that I have compared. I think this is probably, these two are the largest that I have, the newer flashlights that I have anyway. I do have two other flashlights here. This is the LED Lenser P17. Okay, it's a pretty long sort of light. I don't really use it. It's a light that I got maybe about 10 years ago. It's got an old R2 LED in it, but I got some fresh cells for it the other day. And I've also got this light here, the X-Star S1, which again, it's an older light, about maybe 10 years old, and I did some LED swaps the other day, swapped over the XMLs to XML2s, and the reason for that is because I basically stuffed up the previous LEDs in there by trying to de-dome them. So, it's definitely not a small flashlight, and especially if we compare it to some of these other throwy flashlights here. I've got the Workhorse FC12. Look at that. I've got the Sofern IF22A, and these ones I reviewed quite recently as well. And look at the size of them. It's impossible at this point. Well, I wouldn't say impossible, but it'd be very difficult to put one of these SPT90s in there and have it really reach maximum lumens for a significant time before it just overheats. So I think this is a really interesting torch, and it's basically that show-off torch, I suppose, if you want to get that maximum throw. I don't have an LEP torch, but this is a flashlight that allows you to project a beam nearly up to 2 kilometers. Still get some usable flood in there as well. And I keep talking about this anodization before, but I really like it. The thing, it kind of reminds me of this old flashlight I have here. It's an old Solar Force flashlight. Again, about 10, 11 years old. And I've had this thing just knocking around. I didn't store it properly, just knocking around everywhere. And chucked in bags, and I actually found it in an old shopping bag in a suitcase the other day, and I pulled it out. But it's amazing condition for 10 years old, considering I didn't take care of it. But the anodizing is kind of similar there. Solar Force at the time was known for its good anodization, so something that I am quite impressed with in the Convoy L8. Let's have a look at some of these smaller flashlights, some smaller EDC flashlights. I've got this Sofern SC31. Here on the left, I've got the Sofern IF25A. Okay, so it's not a little flashlight. You're not going to be able to fit this thing in your jeans pocket. But that's not the point, because this is the rocket. This is the thing that you basically pull out if you want maximum power and maximum throw. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside, do some beam shots in a few different situations. Then I'm going to come back in about a week or so of using this flashlight and give you my final thoughts. Convoy L8, and we're going to drop it straight onto turbo mode, and we'll see how far it actually throws. And this is the biggest thrower that I've got. You're probably looking at 1.5 kilometers or even further. And let's go ahead, let's give it a try. And I'm going to start off a little bit closer, and the camera is set on the same ISO mode, so it's probably going to look too bright closer up, but that's just going to allow it to appear more accurately from a distance. So let's go around here, turbo mode. It's amazing. It's just got this incredible spot beam. It's really overpowering, even from a short distance here. You can see that beam project so far, straight through the night. Incredible. Oh my God. Look at that. That's probably about 500 meters already. But look at that. It reaches those trees right at the end. It's a boat to the left. I don't want to shine it on that boat, but incredible. Look at that. See it up in the sky. Look at that. It even reflects the tree light on the ground. That hits that bridge off in the distance. Tree. Wow. Convoy L8. Let's give this a crack. Turbo. Jesus. Ridiculously bright. Look at that. No issues at all, reaching right through to the end. Convoy L8. I'm back home now, and I've used this light for about a week and want to go through some of my observations, experiences using this light. And one of the things I'll mention firstly is that this is not an EDC light. And if you compare it to this one here, my Sofan SC31 Pro, enormous size difference. The Convoy L8 has a pretty large head. It's 81 millimeters, so it's definitely not something that you can easily chuck in your pocket unless you've got a larger jacket pocket or something like that. It's more suited to just putting in your bag. Surprisingly though, it is really well balanced, and that's due to the position of the cell and also the button, which is placed at the balancing point. If you look at it there, it's just balancing straight at my fingers. The 26800 cell is pretty heavy, so it really counterbalances that larger head, all the weight and the copper pill in there. It feels really comfortable and sturdy in the hand. The finishing and the anodizing is amongst the best I've ever seen in a light. It's just amazing. You've got this smooth and silky finish. It's almost a chalky matte finish. You also notice that I've added a lanyard at the end, and this wasn't included in my initial package. I did feel nervous holding onto such a large light. I do suggest if you get one to purchase one separately, or maybe use one from one of your other torches. One thing the L8 has going for it is that it has a 30 lumen mode, and that's just the L1 mode, the lowest mode, and that's great for these low light situations where you're walking around the house. Maybe you're out taking the bins out or something like that. It's not going to blind you. It's very, very usable. So ramping is really responsive, good spacing in between all the ramp options as well. So it comes with a 26980 battery extension tube. Now it's a bit strange. I've not seen one of those batteries, and I can't even find one on the internet. It's basically a longer 26800 cell. So if you can find one of those somewhere, let me know, because I just wasn't able to find one. Some of the pros of this light: it has now replaced my Immelin MI90 as my go-to power thrower. And as you've seen in the Beamshots before, it throws for 1.5 kilometers, which is incredible, especially for such a relatively small light like this, because you see some of these larger SBT flashlights, some of them have bezels that go up to almost 100, maybe larger than 100 millimeters, so it throws quite a distance. It produces an incredibly bright hotspot, even brighter than my MI90 on the SBT 90.2. Also throws significantly further as well. And if for those of you who've seen the MI90, my MI90 review, I've got another video on that. I do talk about how noisy the fans are in turbo mode. So it was really nice to have a light, another SBT light that just has this nice passive cooling, a little bit more stealthy. Another thing to mention is that this light also throws further than the Convoy 4x21A and the 4x18A. So I know some of you guys have those, or one of those flashlights, or perhaps both of them. Certainly is something to keep in mind due to the head size going to throw a lot further. Which leads to my next point. Cooling. The L8 has really effective passive cooling, and just check out these fin designs here. I've not seen a light that just has such an intricate design and so many cooling fins. Especially this really maximizes the surface area, so in terms of passive cooling, you're getting the best out of that design so that the fins really whisk away that heat. Simon and his team certainly are putting in the effort to make sure this light was CNC'd and fabricated well to effectively cool this LED down. The temperature regulation also works well, so you'll notice when you start using it for probably a few minutes, it does ramp down a fair bit, And I think that's good, because if it doesn't ramp down, you're probably doing some damage to the LED. So it has to ramp down eventually. But you do get a few minutes of full blast, which allows that SBT to really shine at maximum specs. Another pro is value for money. Now, most other SBT 90.2 lights of this size and range are significantly more expensive, and on some occasions they don't even match the specs of this one. The SBT 90.2 emitter is about $50 to $70 just having a look online. So that's about half the price of this light when purchased separately. You definitely can't beat that. It also comes with a 26800 battery. And at the moment, I know these batteries aren't so common, but you can find them online in a few places. I actually ended up getting one from an Australian supplier for $15 with another $10 shipping. So I know you can get them on AliExpress and perhaps in a few other stores as well near to you. You're just going to have to look around a bit. They're not as easy to find as 18650 and 21700 cells. But I do anticipate at some stage they're going to be more popular just because of the larger capacity and high draw rate of these cells. Now this brings me to my next point, and that's the length of the light. Now with larger lights, I don't like them to be too long. It's quite annoying, awkward to kind of carry them around. Many companies actually create those soda can style lights, and I'm not a huge fan of those soda can lights. They're a little bit tricky to carry. I know my MR90 that comes in that sort of style makes that light shorter, but also a little bit awkward to grip. So with the high capacity and output of that 26800 cell, you can have a shorter light that also has great run times. I think I mentioned this before as well, but this light also comes with a low mode of 30 lumens. So I did mention it had a low mode, but the 30 lumens makes it quite usable for indoors general use. I don't know what you'd be doing having this one next to you when you sleep. It's kind of a bit too big. If you do and it is next to you and you pick it up, turn on, it's not going to blind you as long as you have it on the first mode, so the L1 30 lumen mode. There is no moonlight mode, but that's pretty common with larger lights. Another cool feature that you get with this light is that you can actually check the voltage of it as well. Now, I've not seen this in any other lights besides Anduril and Anduril 2 lights. I really like this function as it lets you estimate how much battery that you have left when you're outside. This light also allows you to switch from both smooth to stepped ramping and includes a tactical mode, which is pretty cool. To activate that tactical mode, I think you've got to hit that button 4 times, and then as long as you hold down that button, the light will activate on turbo for however long you hold it down for. So that's quite uncommon. I think I've only seen that tactical mode in Anduril type lights, maybe in lights that are just more have a tactical switch on the back, but never one that has the that E switch on the side. Another thing to mention is that you are buying from a trusted seller. Now Simon's been running Convoy for about 10 plus years to my knowledge. No, when I first got into flashlights back in 2012-ish, Convoy was a thing, and they're still selling some of their famous flashlight bodies from back then. So he definitely has a legendary reputation in the flashlight community, and if you have any issues, you can actually contact him directly and he'll work with you to resolve things. I think that makes a really big difference when you're buying from places like AliExpress, that you have a trusted seller. Alright, so I want to talk about a few things that I think could be improved, or just a few things to note about this light. Now, there's no shortcut to low mode. This really bugged me at first, okay, but now what I do is that I actually ramp the light down to L1 before switching it off. You've got to be careful with this because you might end up blinding yourself temporarily. I've done that a couple of times already. So that's why I actually use the step mode, because from turbo, as you hold down that button, it goes straight into L1 and then I can switch off that light. If I have it in that continuous ramping mode, I'm going to have to hold down that button all the way until it ramps all the way down and turn it off. So I find the step mode is probably the best to use in this particular light. Another thing I wanted to mention is the switch. Now, I wish there was a stronger tactical response from the switch, and I'm used to hearing a real solid kind of click, and it's very quiet. It certainly works well, but you need to press it right in the center to activate. Sometimes I wonder whether I've hit that button or not. There is also a delay on tactical mode. So it's about 0.5 seconds. So when you activate tactical mode and you hold down that button, there's a little bit of a delay from when you press that button to when the light switches on. Slightly annoying because I'm just used to that light turning on right away. But I do realize that most larger lights like this don't even come with a tactical mode. So I'm happy that it has one. So all in all, with the Convoy L8, you get a light that just shocks you with the sheer amount of throwing power. It's just something you get with the L8. This light is really exciting to use, and also a great light to show off to your friends if any of them are interested in flashlights or just around. If you live out in the country, I think you'll really be able to make use of the incredible throw and output of the L8. A lot of my beam shots are done in crowded sort of metro areas, and certainly some of the ambient light does get in the way of showing off the true potential. The value for money on this light is off the charts. Why would you spend $500 on a similar SBT90 light when you can get the quality and performance of the L8 for just 1/5 of the price? So it's really a no-brainer. If you're on the fence, just pick one up. I'll put the link in the description. If you're interested, check it out. You can also message Simon through his store. I'll leave that link there as well at the bottom. If you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, or just things in general, just let me know below and I'll get back to you. And if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and click that like button and subscribe if you want to see more.